Welcome back to my channel, fellow gardeners. Today I thought let's do something different. Let's talk about the cacti. Now this cacti, it's called a thimble cacti, and I've had it in the backyard for a long time. Then I decided, wow, it's such a pretty plant. So I looked at it closely and it looks like it has little stars on it. So I thought, let's learn how to propagate it because it's quite simple. So my name is Alice and I'm the Red Soil Gardener. I want to look at this thimble cacti and look at the propagation of the thimble cacti. Now let's look at the light requirement for this plant. Now the thing is that with all the cacti, as we know, they do like a certain amount of sunlight. But at the same time, if you do put a cacti in a situation where it does get full sun all day and afternoon sun, you stress your plant. Now what happens is some cacti or succulents, when they do get extreme heat and they do get stressed out, they do send out like a red pigment, so that you suddenly see, like on a jade plant or on an echeveria, suddenly it's got this red tint. It actually acts out as a protection for the plant, because once it does get scorched, it actually protects itself by throwing out this pigment. So with this particular cacti is that it doesn't mind having 6 to 5 hours of sun, but at the same time I would actually put it in a situation that you get the morning sun, and then it's sort of actually protected from the harsh midday and afternoon sun. In that way, you're not stressing your plant, or it doesn't start getting a red tint, or it doesn't start browning, which shows sign of stress. Many of us, when we do have our cacti, we do have them as indoor plants. Now, for example, here in Kenya, if I do have my indoor plants, if I do have my cacti, I would most probably keep it in my south-facing window, which is my kitchen area, where you don't get scorching light, but you still get substantial amount of light. Now the problem is, the other thing is that if you're in the northern hemisphere and you do have your cacti, just note that for every season, like in summer or fall or winter or spring, you need to actually move your cacti around in your sitting room where it can actually get that light requirement. So basically my soil mix, what I would actually recommend for cacti is actually a cacti mix, which could have a lot more pumice in there or perlite, which helps with the drainage. I usually put a drop or so of vermiculite just to retain a bit of water and that aeration. But generally, I wouldn't put too much of that, and mix it with some potting soil for the nutrients. Now, so far that has worked very well. So even if you look at this potting mix here, I do have a lot of pumice in there that actually is good for the drainage and for the aeration of the plant. The other thing, what I usually do is that if I'm doing a propagation for succulents, and I do use these recyclable containers, I do make sure that I do have drainage holes, because here you are with this well-draining soil where it's actually the water just goes through, but without the drainage holes, especially for cacti, is you're going to definitely get root rot. Again, the same principle as I do with these party cups is I do get my container, then I do get the skewers, heat it on a gas stove, and then poke them in at the bottom. In that way, the water can actually drain through. So do take note of that. Now, we've talked about the light requirement, we've talked about the soil. Now, the other thing about the plant is, what is the water requirement for this particular plant? As a cacti is that I would always allow it to soak and dry. So basically is that if I do touch the soil and the soil is still wet or moist, I would actually let it dry out, and then I would do my watering. Just give it a really one good soak or a drench and let the water really seep out of it. And if you do have like a saucer underneath your pot, do remove the water there, because with cacti, as we know, they don't like water around their roots, otherwise you can lose the whole plant. Now, when we're looking at propagation of this particular thimble cacti, let's look at this one. Is basically, here is the, well, let's call it the mother plant, and out of it you do get these little sort of offsets that do happen. And here we have the smaller offsets from the mother plant, and as it matures they will get quite big, as with these ones. Now what I did simply for propagation purposes, I did take these offshoots like this, and I've been growing it. I just basically snip it off with a knife, or just simply with your hand, just like that. Remove it with your hands. So once you do get these offsets, or what we call pups, all I simply do is take your container where you have your cacti mix, and then I just place it at the top. And in this case, I haven't calloused the plant yet, but by simply placing it like this, and I'm not going to water it, is I can actually just leave it like that. And once it does sort of callus itself, I will start to water. Now this is what I've done with all these little baby thimble cacti. So I just pick them and then just place it like this. Here's a baby one. So I've taken this pup and I've just set it here like this. Normally you could actually callus the plant, callus the offset. I would actually put it aside for 1 to 3 days, let it sort of harden and heal, and then actually bring it back and put it back into your cactus mix. However, for propagation purposes, as we hadn't actually calloused it, I have put it here, but the soil is relatively dry, and I won't water the soil for another few days until I know that this the offset is actually calloused, and then I will lightly water it, not too much water, because the problem is that if you do give it too much water, you will get root rot. Now what I did is that, again, I have these babies here and I've just put them in. Now these are the ones I did a few weeks ago, and I just did this exactly the same thing, and I actually got really nice rooting. This is just simply callousing it, and then once it's callous, I sort of submerge it into the soil and make sure that when I water, it's very lightly watered, and you will get rooting. So with this particular one, what I'm going to do later is I'm going to actually just take it and then put it in one of these containers and start my collection. Again, is this one. This one's just starting to root again. So basic propagation for the thimble cacti is actually quite simple. So all you need to do is actually go into the mother plant and remove the offsets, which are quite distinct here. You callus it for 2-3 days and let it heal, and then once it is calloused, you take your plant and then you actually submerge it into the soil and very, very lightly water it. And then once you do that, just be patient and you will get rooting. So once you've done that, then what happens is, do put it in an area where you get bright indirect sun, not full sun, because if you do put it in full sun as it's starting to propagate, you will actually stress the plant. You may not get a success story. And second thing, you'll get the browning, you will get the red pigment forming. So when they are still in the juvenile stage, I would keep it in bright, indirect sun, maybe in your kitchen. I do that all the time. And then slowly introduce it into a bigger pot, and gradually you can actually have it in a pot in the house, in a window that you do get at least 4 to 6 hours of sun. So thank you so much, fellow gardeners. I hope you do go and get yourself one of these succulents. I'm definitely going to repot the two, and also this one, the mama plant here, I'm just going to use it for propagation purposes. I'd love to get a lot of these thistle cacti around the house. So don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to press that notification button, and also do subscribe to our channel and do introduce your friends. All this does mean a lot to us. And introduce your family members, your friends. And don't forget, I'm on Instagram. I do post at least once a week. I put whatever flowers are in the garden that are blooming at that particular time. I do answer your questions on Instagram, and I do also answer your questions and answer your comments on YouTube. So thank you so much, and have a lovely, lovely day, and happy gardening.